Before we dive into today's intense story, a quick reminder. Over 90% of our viewers watch our videos but aren't subscribed. If you enjoy content like this, take a second to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And if you find this story gripping, don't forget to like the video. It really helps us out.
My name is Sarah, and for most of my adult life, I believed I was living a peaceful, steady, and respectable life. I had been married to Rayon for 12 years. We had a son together, Adam, 8 years old, and a modest, comfortable home. We weren't rich, but we had what we needed. I thought that made us lucky. People used to say we were the perfect couple. We met in university, supported each other through our first jobs, built our life brick by brick. I stayed home after Adam was born, thinking that was the right decision. Rayon had a good job in finance, and I took care of the house, the bills, the meals, and every detail in between. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable, and I took pride in being the quiet strength behind our little world. But sometimes, stability is just an illusion. Sometimes, what you think is calm is just silence hiding a storm. You don't see it until it hits you in the face. And when it did, it shattered everything I thought I knew. At first, the changes were subtle. He started coming home later than usual. Meetings ran long, he'd say. He seemed distracted, always on his phone. He changed his cologne, said it was a gift from a client. He started going to the gym more often. I didn't want to sound suspicious, so I said nothing. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to trust that our bond meant something. Then I noticed he was deleting his messages, every single one. He was suddenly very protective of his phone, never letting it out of his sight. If I came too close while he was texting, he'd lock the screen quickly. I tried to laugh it off. "Why are you acting like a spy?" I once joked. He gave me a half smile and said, "Work stuff." That was always his excuse. Work, confidential, busy. So I did what most wives do. I buried my suspicions. I convinced myself I was overthinking, that he was just stressed, that it was a phase, that if I just kept the house peaceful and the meals warm and the mood light, things would go back to normal. But they didn't. He grew colder. He stopped making eye contact. He stopped noticing me. I could wear a new dress, cook his favorite meal, and still feel invisible. The silence between us grew heavier. And the worst part? He didn't even seem to care. That was when I began doubting myself. I looked in the mirror and wondered what I had done wrong. Was I too boring? Too predictable? Had I let myself go? I started blaming myself for things I couldn't understand. I cried quietly at night, hiding my pain so Adam wouldn't see it. My son was the only bright spot left in my day. Still, I wasn't ready to confront Rayon. I wasn't ready for what that confrontation might reveal. I hoped I was wrong. I prayed I was wrong. Then one evening, he left his laptop open in the kitchen. That never happened. Rayon was meticulous with his devices. I don't know what came over me, curiosity, fear, desperation, but I sat down and opened his email. What I found crushed every remaining bit of hope I had. There were dozens of messages to a woman named Lilia. Her name was familiar. She worked with him. I had met her once at an office event. She was young, elegant and charming in that effortless way that some women are. I had never suspected anything. She'd been polite, too polite. The emails weren't explicit. They were worse. They were intimate. They spoke of memories I wasn't part of, jokes I didn't understand, nicknames, plans. One message simply said, "Last night was perfect. I can still feel your warmth." My hands trembled. My heart pounded. I kept reading. I couldn't stop. There were photos too, selfies together, lunch dates, inside jokes. And then, one message that destroyed me completely. "I wish I could fall asleep next to you every night." That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling for hours trying to process the betrayal. Not just the affair, but the lies. The months of pretending. The coldness. The fact that he let me question my worth while he built another world behind my back. I didn't confront him right away. I needed to think. I needed to plan. I started observing more carefully. Every excuse he gave, every smile he forced, every moment he pretended to be present while his mind was clearly elsewhere. I didn't say a word. I became an actress in my own home. I smiled when he walked in. I cooked dinner. I kissed him goodnight, and I waited. I began collecting evidence. Quietly, I forwarded emails to a hidden address. I took screenshots. I started journaling every interaction, every inconsistency, every lie. I needed to be sure. I needed to be ready. During this time, something changed in me. The pain turned into anger, the heartbreak into focus. I didn't want revenge just for the sake of it. I wanted justice. I wanted truth. I wanted to reclaim the power he had taken from me. I also began to rebuild myself. Slowly, I joined a yoga class. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. I met with old friends for coffee. I stopped, asking Rayon where he was going or when he'd be home. I stopped caring, or at least I acted like I did. The day I finally decided to confront him, I was calm. He came home late again. I was waiting at the table, laptop open, email pulled up. "Rayan," I said, in a voice that surprised even me, "we need to talk." He looked confused, maybe even slightly annoyed. "Can it wait?" "I'm tired." "No," I said firmly. "Sit down." He hesitated but sat. I turned the screen toward him. His face turned white. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I just looked at him. For the first time in a long time, I saw the man he had become. Not the one I had fallen in love with, but the one who had discarded me like an old habit. He stammered, tried to explain, said it was just emotional, that he was confused, that he still loved me. I listened. Then I stood up. "You broke something," I told him, "something that can't be fixed with apologies." He followed me around the house for days, begging, but I was done listening. I had spent too long silencing my own needs, my own voice. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg him to stay. I was going to be smart, strategic. And when the time was right, I would do something he never expected, because he thought I was weak, but he had no idea what I was capable of. After that night, everything shifted. The silence between us became something else, thicker, heavier. But this time it was filled with truth. I had exposed the lie. Rayan didn't deny the affair anymore. He knew he had been caught, but he still didn't grasp the damage he had done. He apologized, yes, over and over, but his apologies felt hollow, like he was mourning the consequences, not the betrayal itself. He slept on the couch after that. I didn't tell him to. He just didn't have the courage to lie beside me anymore. The distance between us wasn't physical. It was emotional, spiritual, and it was irreversible. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I wasn't ready for pity. I wasn't ready for advice or judgment or whispered gossip. I needed time to think, to plan. So I kept the secret just like I had kept everything else for years. But while he thought I was processing pain, I was plotting power. There's something strange that happens when a woman finally sees clearly. You start remembering all the little things you ignored, the subtle disrespect, the forgotten gestures, the way your sacrifices were dismissed, and slowly your identity returns to you, the part of you that was buried under laundry and quiet dinners and forced smiles. I wanted revenge, but not the kind that explodes loudly. I wanted the slow, quiet kind, the kind that changes everything without a single raised voice. I started with the finances. Over the years, I had handled most of the household bills. Rayan managed his personal accounts, but everything else, mortgage, school fees, groceries, passed through me. He liked it that way. It made him feel like the powerful provider without having to deal with the actual management. So I used that. I reviewed every statement, every transaction, every subscription. I made copies of everything: bank records, credit card charges, receipts. I visited a lawyer quietly, told him I wasn't sure yet, but I wanted to understand my rights. He gave me more than legal advice. He gave me clarity. The house was in both our names. Adam, legally, was a shared responsibility. My lawyer said that if I had evidence, proof of infidelity, which I did, I had more leverage than I realized. I felt my spine straighten that day. Rayan still went to work every day. He came home earlier now, tried to be present. He made awkward attempts to help with dinner or ask about Adam's school, but I could see it in his eyes. Guilt, discomfort, fear. He was trying to act normal, hoping I would eventually forgive him, maybe forget. But I had no intention of forgetting, and certainly not of forgiving. Then came the moment that changed everything. One evening, I saw a message pop up on his phone. He was in the shower. The name that appeared was Lilia. Again, I didn't open it. I didn't have to. Just the name was enough. After all the apologies, after all the begging, he was still in contact with her. I took a photo of the screen. My hands didn't shake this time. I realized then he never truly chose me. Even after being caught, after seeing me broken, he still wanted her. That was when I decided it was time to act. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. I simply became silent, calculated, cold. I started preparing quietly. I rented a small apartment in my name, not far, just enough to give me space. I spoke to Adam's school and informed them that there would be a change in our living arrangements. I didn't say why, just that there would be 2 addresses now. I withdrew half of our joint savings. Legally, I was allowed to. I left the rest untouched. And then I waited for the right day. It was a Saturday morning. The sun was out. Adam was playing in the backyard. Rayan was drinking coffee at the table, scrolling on his phone. I walked in with a folder and placed it in front of him. "What's this?" he asked. "Read it," I said. Inside were copies of all the emails, the photos, the messages from Lilia, and on top of the stack, a letter from my lawyer. His face fell. "I'm leaving," I told him, "not because I'm weak, but because I finally remember who I am." He didn't argue. He didn't have the strength. I think deep down, he knew this moment would come. "I'll never keep Adam from you," I said, "but I won't live in a lie." He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Maybe he was. That evening, I packed my things and took Adam to the new apartment. He asked me why. I told him gently that sometimes grown-ups make mistakes and that I needed space to feel better. He hugged me and said, "Okay." His innocence gave me strength. The first night in the new place was quiet. No familiar routines, no pretenses, just the sound of Adam breathing as he slept in the next room. And yet, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: peace. I wasn't done yet. There was still more to come. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what was next. I was in control. And Rayan, he was about to learn exactly what it means to underestimate the woman he betrayed. The days that followed were quiet, but they were not empty. I had always feared change, feared being alone, feared breaking the life I had built over 12 years. But the moment I stepped away from the house that held all my silent suffering, I began to feel something I hadn't in years: alive. Adam adjusted quickly. Children are stronger than we think. He missed his father, of course, but I'm mighty sure his world stayed bright. We painted walls together, made pancakes on Sundays, danced in the kitchen to silly music. And slowly the weight in my chest began to lift. Rayan, on the other hand, unraveled. At first he tried to act composed, sent polite messages asking how Adam was doing, offered to drop off groceries. I let him see our son twice a week, supervised at first. I wasn't trying to keep Adam from him, but I needed to protect our peace. Then came the texts, long, rambling apologies. He wanted to talk, to explain. He still loved me, he said. He had ended things with Lilia, but I knew better. I had learned to listen beyond words. What he really meant was that he missed the version of life where I absorbed the weight of his failures without complaint. He didn't miss me. He missed what I made easy for him. I ignored most of his messages. Until the day he sent me a photo. It was of Lilia at a restaurant, laughing. The caption read, "I thought I loved her, but it was just an escape. She never really knew me." I stared at the photo for a long time, and then I did something I never imagined I'd have the strength to do. I deleted it. No reply, no reaction, nothing. Because the best revenge is not fury, it's silence, it's success, it's peace. And I wasn't done. 2 months after I moved out, I filed for divorce. I did it with grace. I didn't smear his name. I didn't tell the world what he did. I let the facts speak. My lawyer presented the evidence. It was more than enough. Rayan was stunned. He thought I was bluffing. He thought I'd come back eventually, but I didn't. The divorce was finalized within 3 months. I kept the apartment. I received full custody of Adam with visitation rights for Rayan. I retained part of our savings and the car. Fair, calm, legal. He lost more than a wife. He lost his foundation. The last time I saw Lilia was accidental. I was at a grocery store picking up cereal. She walked past me, her eyes wide when she recognized me. I held her gaze for just a moment. I didn't glare. I didn't look away. I just smiled. Not the smile of a woman broken, the smile of a woman rebuilt. And I walked past her like she didn't matter, because she didn't. Months passed. I found work again, part-time at first, then more. I reconnected with old friends, found joy in little things. Sunsets from the window, coffee without interruptions, weekends with my son, and laughter that didn't have to be forced. I never looked back. One evening, Adam asked me, "Mom, are you happy now?" I nodded. "I am." Even without Dad, I smiled. Sometimes being happy means letting go of what hurts us, even if we loved it once. He thought about it and then nodded too. And that was it. I had been betrayed. I had been torn down. But I rose, not by destroying anyone else, but by choosing myself. That was the real revenge, and it was more beautiful than anything I could have imagined. Months passed, but I didn't count the days anymore. Life began to settle into a new rhythm, one that didn't revolve around waiting for someone to come home or pretending not to notice the distance in someone's eyes. There was a stillness in my mornings that I hadn't felt in years. No tension in the air, no silent questions floating between spoonfuls of cereal. Just peace. Adam flourished in our new environment. He was more cheerful, more expressive. He drew pictures of superheroes, told me stories about school, and sometimes climbed into my bed late at night just to be close. He didn't talk much about his father. Occasionally, he'd ask when he would see him next, and I always answered gently. I never poisoned his heart with bitterness. I didn't need to. Rayan came for his visitations on time. He tried to be enthusiastic, to show Adam he still cared, but I could sense the discomfort in him. He had aged in a matter of weeks, not in appearance. He still wore the same crisp shirts and held his chin high, but in his energy. His presence no longer dominated the room. He looked like a man haunted by his own decisions, unsure of where he stood. Once during a drop-off, he lingered at the door. "Do you ever think about us?" he asked. I looked at him for a moment. "Yes," I said. And I thank God every day that I found the strength to walk away. He looked down, ashamed. There was nothing more to say. He never brought up Lilia again. Whether they ended things quietly or she left on her own, I never knew. I never asked. I didn't care. Her story was never mine to carry. My story was about letting go, about rebuilding, about rediscovering the woman I had locked away in silence for far too long. I pursued more hours at work. I started leading weekend art workshops for children, something that brought me joy and allowed me to bond with Adam in creative ways. We painted together on the balcony, filled the apartment with our silly artwork, and laughed at our messy attempts. I was no longer the woman who once begged for affection with perfectly folded laundry and home-cooked meals. I was something entirely new, entirely whole. Sometimes I caught glimpses of couples walking hand in hand. Sometimes it stung. Not because I missed Rayon, but because I mourned the years I had spent dimming myself to keep someone else comfortable. But I didn't let those moments consume me. Instead, I allowed myself to feel them, then release them. One morning, while packing Adam's lunch, I found a small drawing folded in his backpack. It was a picture of me and him, standing on a hill with big smiles. He'd written, "Me and Mama, bravest people in the world." I didn't cry often anymore. But that day, I did, because somewhere in the quiet pain, in the buried strength, in the long nights of questioning my worth, I had become the mother he needed, the woman I needed. And as time moved on, I realized something else. I didn't need revenge to feel powerful. The real victory was walking away with my dignity intact. The real justice was thriving in a life he no longer had access to. I never told the world what happened. I didn't post cryptic quotes online. I didn't drag his name through the mud. I simply rose, quietly, confidently, and that spoke louder than anything I could have ever said. The last time I saw Rayon was at Adam's school recital. He sat in the back, clapping politely. When our son took the stage and looked for me in the crowd, his eyes lit up when he found me. I waved. He smiled wide, the kind of smile that melted every scar life had etched on my heart. I didn't look at Rayon again. I didn't need to, because that night, when Adam and I walked home together, hand in hand under the city lights, I finally understood that I had never really lost anything. I had only set myself free.